following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee. This is the Msp North Podcast with your hosts, Brady McAtamney and Blaine Keller, covering high school sports in Robertson and Montgomery counties.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Msp North Podcast. We have a fun episode lined up for you guys today. We are quite literally in the middle of the high school basketball postseason, in between districts and region. Blaine, you've been having fun with the playoffs so far in your first full season being the official reporter?
Well, I'll say last year I remember covering a girls' first-round game at Northwest for you while I was freelancing, and then going to Northeast to cover a boys' first-round district game. So being in one spot is a heck of a lot better than having to travel across town or even, farther than that for a couple of games.
Yeah, COVID really made things difficult on us last year. But you mentioned Northwest. That's a good little segue into our first guest of the show. It is Ben Wallace, head coach of the Northwest Lady Vikings. They're going to be the number 2 seed in their region after getting kind of an upset loss with Henry County. They had beaten them twice in the regular season. Ben, I hate to start you off with a sour note, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about that district championship game?
Well, first off, I'm not sure it was an upset. I know that we won the first 2 games, but we beat them at our place by, I don't remember, 5, I think, or 6, and then we beat them at their place by 5 or 6. I think it was 81-75, something like that at their place. And we played great basketball, and they played great basketball. And so, we were fortunate to win those first 2 games. I'm not sure that the championship was a case of an upset. I think it was more of a toss-up. And Henry County played outstanding. They were 11 of 25 from three-point line, and I promise we were trying to guard them. And, they just did a great job. But we did not play that bad. We didn't shoot the ball real well like we had been doing against them in the past. But we only had 5 turnovers. 5. I mean, that's I think that's got to be a school record for us. And they just beat us. They're a very good team. I don't know that is a terrible upset, and honestly, I don't know that it affected the region situation. We're playing Northeast on Friday instead of Springfield, but beyond that, I don't know that it matters. So, of course, we wanted to win the game, but it was just 2 good basketball teams playing, and really we won the first 3 quarters, and then we just kind of messed up in the 4th quarter, and they beat us in that quarter, and they won the game. So we just got to move on.
And, Coach, I've been following along a little bit with Brady's work, and it almost seems like with the tough schedule that you guys have played and, a couple of the losses kind of being, just 2 great basketball teams playing against each other. And you mentioned the Henry County game. Like you said, Henry hits 11 3-pointers, and you guys only turn over the ball 5 times. Do you hang your hat on this? Do you worry at all? It kind of sounds like you're unfazed a little bit.
Well, I think that you have to be. We can't live in the past. That game is over, and we've got a very important game on Friday night that we've got to take care of business on, and hopefully get to move on and play, further on in the playoffs. Does it bother me that we didn't shoot the ball as well as we should, and we kind of had a lapse in judgment there at one point in the 4th quarter? That aggravates me a little bit, but it's you're talking about high school kids, and we were playing hard. When we come out on Friday night, we're going to be playing hard again, and I'm not I never want to lose a game, and so I'm upset from that standpoint. But it's not like we went out there and we just laid down and we played poorly. And we're going to be there ready to play on Friday and hopefully in the future. And it sometimes you just don't win when you're playing good teams. Sometimes you just don't win. So that's kind of the approach that I've had with them. And this whole season we've had to adjust to kind of a different role. We were not really climbing the ladder. We were standing at the top trying to hang on, and that's a different mindset that you have to have. And, this year has been challenging at times. But, from a coaching standpoint overall, I'm not upset with us. I'm not worried about it. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, and I want to talk real quick about your Miss Basketball finalist, Tamia Scott. Seems like she's finally getting that statewide recognition that she's really done a lot to deserve. I want to give you the chance real quick to state the case for Tamia as Miss Basketball in 4A.
Well, first off, I don't know that I can say enough about how great a young lady she is. Tamia is a great basketball player, but she's a great kid. And so that has made it a lot of fun over the last 4 years to get to be with her and, enjoy this trip that we've been on together. But from a basketball standpoint, Tamia she is a real problem for anyone to guard. She's quicker than most post players, and she's tall enough that you need someone with a little bit of size to guard her. And if you're not quick enough, she's going to step out. She plays a lot of guard for us anyway, and she probably will be a guard in college. And so she's a real tough matchup situation. I was just looking. She's had a double-double in rebounds and points. Let's see, 10 times. She's averaging 21 points a game now and 9 rebounds, but she's had a double-double. In fact, the last 5 games, the last 5 games, she's had a double-double, points and rebounds.
Wow. And,
Henry County was mauling her. They had somebody on her all night the other night, and it may have held her down a little bit, but she still had 17 points and 12 rebounds, I think it was, and she did everything that she could do. And so she's a great kid, and she can defend and she blocks shots. I feel confident. I don't have all of the information to back it up, but I think she's got the school record for career block shots. She's got 316. 320 right now for her career, and so there is not much that I can complain about. She shoots with high percentage, rebounding. She's great at assists. She is second on the team in assists. We really have 3 players who are all right there together as far as assists. So, she's just an outstanding kid and has led us and gotten better every year, I feel like, in doing that part, becoming a leader. And she absolutely should be Miss Basketball, in my opinion.
And, Coach, when you look back last year, and you mentioned, of course, Tamia is your star player, and you've got a couple other players that are either looking to go to college or have the opportunities to play at the next level. But last season, you're 25-4, and you have a group of players that you label as the unknowns that were kind of the bridge to get you to where you wanted to be. Is it the same situation this year, and has that role of players changed a little bit?
I think that as far as those unknowns, I think that they are absolutely just as critical for us. Right now, of course, everyone knows you better guard Tamia. You got to do something to deal with Tamia Scott. But Imaya Cobb, Kayla House, Kayla's been shooting the ball great, really all season. She's having her best year this year. Imaya is a girl that is, people don't realize she's averaging 11 or 12 points a game, but like 7 rebounds. She's 3 assists, 3 steals. She just gets a little bit of everything. Outstanding athlete, great defender. But people know about that. And at the higher levels, you've got to have other people that can contribute, and they're not going to have great nights every night. And you've got to have somebody to be able to pick up the slack. And so those unknowns are just as critical this year as they were last year. And it's worked out that it's kind of the same people, but some of the unknowns are a little more known this year. I've heard a couple of the coaches using their names a little bit when they're talking about them after the game. And so they've played a role. Those sort of unknown kids have played a role in us winning games. The 2 games that we beat Henry County, one kid who, frankly, Henry County wasn't even defending him. They were giving him the wide open shot. She hit 4 threes. And then we have a sophomore when we went down to Henry County, and she hit 3 threes. And these are in the heat of the action, and so big points, and they play good defense for us, and so they're critical. Right now we're only dressing 10 on the varsity, and every single girl contributes to us in our success in some way. And if they don't, we're not going to be as successful. So those unknowns are very important to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you guys will play Northeast on Friday. Obviously, that's kind of a fun little directional rivalry here in Clarksville with the Northwest and Northeast matchup. Tell me what you guys are going to be looking to do in that game.
Well, really, we just want to play good fundamental basketball. Sometimes I think coaches can make a mistake by getting in the way of the players and taking them out of things that they do because we decide we're gonna step in and coach now. Against Northeast, they're going to play us really hard. Sierra Bowser is their best offensive player. She's the best player, period. She's an outstanding player for anybody. But, for us, we just need to play good fundamental basketball, take care of the basketball, do what we do every night defensively. We're going to press like we always do. We need to rebound better and then hit our free throws and layups. And if we do that, we're going to be fine. There's no magic to this. You just got to play high quality, solid basketball. And, but we will definitely match the intensity that Northeast will play with. Tracy does a great job over there coaching them, and like this year she's a little short-handed as far as the numbers of kids, and she's doing a great job with what she has available. And they're going to come at us hard, and we'll go at them hard. And I do not doubt our capabilities as long as we are focused and we are just being good fundamental basketball players.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
oh no, you nailed it. You nailed it as always. Well, that will definitely be a good game, and assuming things go with the higher seeds winning. Of course, we don't want to put the cart before the horse here. But we could have a matchup of two Miss Basketball finalists in that semifinal game. But we'll talk about that once we get there, right?
Yesterday to open practice, I read off a list of teams that were number one seeds that didn't win in the district tournament. Teams that got upset, if you want to call it an upset. In some cases, they were real upsets, and in some cases, the number two team is just as good as number one team. But a number of cases all across the state where maybe somebody wasn't paying attention. You know, you overlooked somebody, and I was just reminding them that this happened, and we want to leave no stone unturned. There's already people are talking about that Monday night, and we could play Clarksville High and Rossview and Henry County, and it's four great teams, but we've all four got to get there. And so I reminded them that you got to live in the here and now, and the here and now for us is Friday night. And so we're focusing on that, but hoping for good things in the future, and we'll see what happens. But
absolutely.
Anyway,
absolutely.
We definitely don't want to overlook Northeast at all.
Definitely not. Players
many times. Yeah.
When you got players like Sierra Bowser, Kersani Mitchell, they're a tough team to overlook. But Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and best of luck on Friday.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm happy anytime that I can talk about the program. So have me back anytime you want.
Absolutely. Hopefully the season keeps going on a little longer for you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, Brady, whenever you told me that Ben Wallace was going to be on the call today, I got a little bit excited because Ben has some of the most interesting responses, I think, of any coach. I think it was a game last year where he gave you a phrase in Latin or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yep. Yeah, he's a great interview. He always gets us some great quotes. I remember so we mentioned the quote unquote unknowns that they have. I remember at one point, I think it might have been last season or this season. He told me the team wasn't just Tamiya and the Seven Dwarves. That's one I'll remember. That was a good one.
That's a good one. Wow.
But yeah, he definitely does a great job. Now, before we get our second guest in here, which is actually going to be a very unique guest to the program, we're very excited about that. Why don't we go ahead and look at our game of the week for this coming week?
For sure. So mine's already happened. Spoiler alert, unfortunately. But, the couple of games that we've got in region play in the county, you've got a lot of 1-4s, a lot of 2-3s. A lot of Robertson County teams have fortunately been the 1 or 2. So there are a lot of matchups that should go in the favor of those 1 or 2 seeds. But Greenbrier and Portland District Championship last night was one of the quickest games I think I've ever seen in my time covering. There weren't a lot of stoppages. It was very fast-paced but low scoring. It was a 34-33 win by Portland. Duncan Smallwood gets a putback at the buzzer. What an incredible game. I thought it was really surprising. Portland's first district championship since 2003, and Greenbrier is still searching for their first since 2018.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge upset. Greenbrier's had a great season, so congratulations to Portland for that. That's a true upset. Ben said that his game wasn't quite one, but that Portland and Greenbrier definitely a true upset. As for my game of the week, I'm looking at Clarksville Academy on Saturday. The boys are in state hosting their game to hopefully get to Tennessee Tech. Get to Collierville for that Final Four. They're going to be hosting either St. George's out of Collierville or Notre Dame again out of Chattanooga. Both of those teams are in the 50s at max preps. How much stock you guys put into those rankings, it's up to you. But kind of a decent little measuring stick for how good these teams might be. But Clarksville Academy, they're going to have home court advantage, and when you got a team coming from either Collierville or Chattanooga, that's a long way to Clarksville. So that's definitely going to be a huge home court advantage for them. And if they win that game, like I said, they're in that Final Four playing in Cookeville at Tennessee Tech. So really looking forward to that game. That's going to be on Saturday, and you bet I will be there.
Well, I look forward to reading your coverage, and let's kind of stick in Clarksville a little bit, and have some Springfield roots to it. For our first non-basketball guest of the Msp North podcast, we welcome on Austin Peay and Springfield alum right-handed pitcher Luke Brown. Luke, how we doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Hey, it's great to have you on here, and especially after a really nice weekend that Austin Peay baseball had. Its first series win over a Power 5 opponent since 2013. The Govs took 2 of 3 from Boston College. Luke, talk to me about that series and how big it kind of was for your team to start off the season.
Well, what I will say is, like, when we were playing Boston, obviously, they're Power 5. It's kind of what, we saw that last year they were kind of last in their conference. So we kind of had high hopes when it came to trying to win the series, and we had a lot of confidence going in. And then we lost that Friday game, and I remember the guys were talking about how, like, man, that team's highly beatable, and I think we can take the series from them. And then that Saturday game happened, and then we ended up walking it off on a walk, which was just electric, So then now we're like, hey, we have another shot to, another game to win the whole thing. So then the Sunday game happened, and I mean, it was like a hit parade the whole time. I mean, winds blowing straight out, perfect day of baseball. Like, it was insane. I mean, I can't like express how crazy that Sunday game was. Like I would say from like the pitching perspective, not a great weekend for the Govs, but from a hitting perspective, I mean, it was just super clutch. The guys were getting timely hits. I mean, they kept on bringing guys in the bullpen, trying to minimize, but the guys just kept on timely hits. I mean, when the score was 11-1, I think it was the third or fourth inning. Just our guys having enough goal to go up there and tie the game up 13-13. I think it was in the 6th or 7th, somewhere around there, and then just end up getting a walk-off win as well at the end of the game, the same way we did on Saturday. Man, it light everyone up, and I'm really glad that our hitters, came in, did the job, and yeah, they did really well. So it was huge.
Yeah, you had that start on Sunday. Obviously, you'd have liked it to personally go a little bit better for you, but when you see the final score is 18-17, not too bad. You got the win, and everyone was hitting that day. It wasn't just off of you, but you are also coming back from an injury. Your first start off an injury that kept you out all of last season. Why don't you tell us about kind of what you were going through with that injury and what the recovery was like?
Man, so I got surgery in 2020, I believe. The Tommy John is kind of like one of those things where you get the surgery, you just have to do a lot of physical therapy. Also, it takes about a good year. Like I would say, like the injury has taught me, it teaches you a lot about how to take care of yourself. But it also taught me a lot of like, just you can always do something every day. I mean, it was one of those things that, like, you look back on it, it was like you got injured, you're put behind, but it also showed me a lot of, stuff that I can progress in my game and obviously get better and try to help out my team as much as I could. But recovery was good. I enjoyed that process, and then plus we had COVID too during that time. So getting the treatment and all that stuff was very tough, to say the least. But coming out of that injury, getting a couple starts under my belt, and trying to do the best I could, really just helped me progress my career. And it's kind of just like I said, like even with the start that I had previously, obviously not a great one, but just sticking to the process, that I've been doing since I've been injured, and just trying to compete the best I can, and keep moving forward. I think that's kind of where my head's at right now.
And when you mentioned getting a couple of starts last year, I think you had a one hitter against UT Martin in a complete game. Austin Peay's returning a lot of pitching this year. 80% of their innings from last year have come back this year. And I'm curious, whenever you have kind of guys like Drew McElwain and yourself and even Harley Gollert, how those guys kind of help as a staff and how returning so many innings kind of influences a pitching core, so to speak.
I would say, obviously, and I think, everyone can agree with this, is like there's just a lot more maturity, a lot more like guys that are just, obviously they know how to prepare for certain things. They kind of have an understanding what type of pitcher they are. So, like, I guess through the fall, it's like, hey, I'm probably going to do this, or I'm going to start, or I'm going to close, or whatever. So we kind of had an idea of where everyone's going to be at, which helps a lot. Because I think a lot of times when you get a new pitching staff, everyone's questioning, like, where am I going to go? So I think returning back arms again and having guys who are just understand the role or understand that they could do a lot for us. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to returning so much, pitching. Also the experience, I think, is a huge deal, especially in college. You get everyone kind of understands how college is and how the game goes, and kind of understand that, it's a long game, and, staying healthy is another thing too. So that, I think that's the biggest positive. And obviously, like you said, like having Harley and Drew in there to help us out as well is a big deal. Can help us go farther. And I think so far, we're having, like you said, before then, having ups and downs, and, I think having more of a, older pitching staff helps with those, big spikes, and helps get us back to normal and back to where we should be.
Yeah, and this is kind of a unique season for Austin Peay baseball, as it is your guys' last season in the OVC. I'm curious about if that's something that you guys have put any thought into as you prepare to move to the ASUN, with this kind of being your last time hosting a lot of those OVC opponents, and if you've looked ahead to the ASUN at all.
Well, that's a good question. Honestly, we're going to play a lot of ASUN opponents during the midweek. So I guess in that case, we're kind of looking, kind of see where they're at, where they stack up. But I guess, the good answer would be just we're kind of focused on the OVC right now, because obviously that's who we have, and that's what we're trying to win, especially since the last time we're going to be in OVC. We're going to try to win the championship and do whatever we can to win that and be one of the, when we leave, we have one of the OVC championships. But, yeah, definitely look at the ASUN. We're going to be playing a lot, like I said, in the midweek. So we're excited to move to the ASUN. It's going to be a different challenge, I think, especially for our guys. And I'm hoping that it all, the transition moves well. But I hope this season we kind of win the OVC title before we leave.
Now let's transition into the OVC a little bit and into some conference opponents, but add some local flavor in. So Belmont is a team that you guys are obviously very well familiar with. Belmont is a powerhouse in the OVC, I'd say. But one of the pitchers, the new relief pitcher for Belmont this year, Caleb Geiswhite of White House Heritage. I'm curious, with the possibility of two Robertson County guys having the opportunity to go against each other, is there any connection there? Do you know Caleb at all? And you guys talked about maybe playing against each other when the conference slate picks up.
Honestly, I do not know him. I never really we played with White House, never really got too close to that to the players per se. But it's exciting. I'm glad that a bunch of Robertson County guys get the chance to play college ball, and I'm really glad to play against another Robertson County guy for sure. I think baseball is one of those things I think in Robertson County that's picking up, and I'm really, really glad for that, because usually football is kind of the bigger deal, and which is fun. But having a bunch of guys represent the area, I think, is a huge deal. So I'll be glad. I'll probably go say hi to him before we tee it off, and I'm glad that you told me. So that's good.
And, with Springfield season starting up, and I think about a week's time, you're obviously a big advocate for Springfield baseball, with it being where you're from. Grant Donkin, one of the big guys on that team this year, he's getting some looks from Trevecca from what I've heard. What can you tell us, if anything, about Springfield baseball this year? What should we expect? And, even with some Clarksville schools that Springfield's likely to play, what should we expect from Springfield baseball this year?
So great thing. I get to go and hang out with the team sometimes during the winter. When I get off. And what I could say is right now I've talked to a bunch of Clarksville schools as well, and they say Springfield's going to be pretty good this year, just from returning all the guys. And like you said, Grant, he's kind of a big arm for Springfield. They also got a catcher. Man, I forgot his name, but he's going to be pretty good, I think. You got also Noah Waltz's brother, Carter. I think he's going to be another arm that's going to help. So I'm kind of looking forward to them being pretty good, or at least top of the district, which I really hope so, because they deserve it. Martone's excited, obviously, and I think they're going to be pretty good. I do. I don't. I couldn't tell you where they're going to stack up yet, but I think they're going to be a solid team this year.
Well, Luke, a great interview as always. Thank you so much for taking the time on the MSP North podcast today, and best of luck this weekend against Bowling Green.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Luke.
Like I said, Luke is always a really great interview. I talked with him after he was coming back from that Tommy John surgery last year. And what was interesting was that they were going to try to ease him into the season a little bit. And then that first weekend against Dallas Baptist, he's thrown into relief. So from there, he picked up a rotation spot and had a pretty solid season, I think, coming back from Tommy John. And he's got the Sunday spot right now as a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And pitching on those Sundays, I mean, that's such an important spot because, that's that last game of the series. That's a lot of times that those Sunday games are going to be how you remember that series going back. So getting those wins on those Sundays, being that guy, it's a huge game for those teams. So that's our first basketball or non-basketball interview in the books. First of many, but that's MSP North history right there.
Yeah, it's nice it's been great talking with all these basketball coaches. I think they've got some great minds and stuff. And, as we kind of roll into baseball a little bit, I thought it'd be nice to get in the player, nice to get in a little bit of flavor, not only for Springfield, but Austin Peay as well.
That's right. It double dips there. Now let's look at our players of the week. Blaine, I know you got some pretty good stuff in there, some champions in there. So why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Sure. So we look back. I mentioned last week, game of the week was going to be East Robertson and Joe Burns girls. East Robertson boys reaches the District 8-1A championship. They end up winning it. Shouts to Taylor Groves for getting 27 points in that. His brother Sean now back on the team this year. He's been hurt a lot of the year, I think, with a knee injury. I'll be able to get more on that on Saturday, but it'll be really interesting to see how that dynamic works as the region goes. But it looked like he played a lot in that game. So Taylor Groves now with his brother, District 8-1A champions after winning 4 games last year. On the girls' side, Julia Arms of Joe Burns. It's not a name I'm not expecting a ton of people to be familiar with. The sophomore who really had to step up because of Grayson Bryan's ACL and meniscus injury that she suffered a couple weeks ago. She steps up and scores 22 points against East Robertson to get Joe Burns the District 8-1A championship. So they're the top seed in the region, and they'll face Gordonsville on Friday.
Yeah, so there you go. One familiar name, one new name. I'm unfortunately not going to be able to follow suit. I'm going with 2 very, very familiar names, both Clarksville players, because that's just kind of the way it worked out this time. Starting off with JJ Wheat. This is about as obvious as a choice as it gets this week. Last night against Rossview in the District 13 4A Boys Championship game, JJ scored 32 points against Rossview, including the game-winning kind of a tip-in, getting a rebound and putting it back up. It wasn't necessarily at the rim, but just it was the game winner. I can tell you that. And just an incredible game by JJ. He was showing his range. He was getting to the rim. He was drawing fouls. He was playing great defense, really just doing it all. And that's kind of something we've come to expect from him. He won his 3rd straight district MVP, which is crazy. I don't know of many players that have done that. He's won it every year since he was a sophomore, and definitely going out strong as a senior. And Amari Berry, speaking of sophomores, she didn't quite win district MVP. I know some people were a little confused at that, but it went to another very deserving player in Sydney James DeRoche at Rossview. But Amari Berry scored 27 points in her district championship win over Rossview. She's made, I believe, 5 3-pointers. in that game, which I actually got a great quote from Ross U head coach Justin Woods after that game. He said, when priority number 1 is to stop number 2 from making her threes, and she makes 5 of them, that's not great for them. But Amari Berry, 27 points. She's she's just, I've said it a million times. She's an incredible player. And 27 points in that district championship game to win her first district, carry her team to that as just a sophomore. Pretty incredible stuff.
Now, was Sydney James derose tournament MVP or just regular season MVP?
Regular season MVP. They ended up
really.
Yeah. There were definitely some people confused about that because, like I said, she's incredibly deserving. She's an Eastern Illinois commit. She was really the best player on Rossview all season, and they were the regular season district champions. But with the way Amari Berry played, and she's a Miss Basketball finalist, so it does make you wonder a little bit. But obviously nothing against Sydney. She had an amazing season as well.
Of course not. But Brady, I'm going to put you on the spot now and kind of ask you who you think the District 13 4A most valuable player should have been.
Yeah, that is putting me on the spot. I hate to have to take a side on this, but I probably would have gone with Amari. She's a Miss Basketball finalist for a reason. She's picking up all these insane Power 5 offers. But I understand wanting to give it to a senior. I assume that's probably part of why Sydney got the nod. But personally, I think Amari was probably the best player in the district.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think that senior kind of designation maybe had some weight to it. And Sydney, like you said, great player, deserving of it. Amari's just a very, very good player too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've discussed, some district championships, and we've been running through those all week and finally through those now, I think, unless you've got another one coming up tonight.
No, we're through them. We're headed on to region now, and for Clarksville Academy, they're in state right now, so we're getting to the end game.
Which is, I don't know if you'll kind of take a side on this, but it feels like, in my opinion, my best work, and I think your best work too, probably comes at this point of the year. For some reason,
it's always easier to write a good game story when you've got a great game to cover. Right. It's hard to write a good game story when you got a running clock in the third quarter or something, or there's just not a lot to write about. But games like last night, I covered Clarksville versus Rossview, that boys district championship, and like I mentioned when I was talking about JJ, just an incredible game. And it felt like I blinked and there were 700, 800 words on my document. So yeah, I definitely I would agree with that.
I feel the same way. It's almost like a switch almost turns on after last night's game. In the same way, as I was driving home, I opened my notes app and turned on talk to text and just started talking into my notes app. And then, it's 300, 400 words by the time I've, put it onto the page. Like I said, just almost a switch turns on whenever you're in the district semifinals and even the district finals. Just something changes.
Yeah, and when I'm writing, I like to just put on Spotify for some ambient background noise, but there are some nights where I won't even remember to turn it on because I just get straight into writing. And last night was one of those nights. I was like halfway through writing my second story. I was like, I never put any music on. So yeah, definitely sometimes that zone, you're just straight into it. But let's get into our one thing segment. We got with the regions coming up, some district action finally behind us. I know we got some good things to talk about.
For sure. And, we'll start with one that's maybe not so good to hear from White House girls basketball fans, but last Monday's game, so Monday's district championship between White House and Creekwood, the Lady Blue Devils just ran into a buzzsaw. It was actually a 10-point game the last time White House and Creekwood met at Creekwood. And this time it was not that. I believe it was 8-4 to start the game, and it turned out being 66-36 in favor of the Lady Redhawks. It's a really tough game. There was a full court press there from Creekwood that really seemed to cause fits for White House. They still have the number 2 seed and actually have a pretty favorable matchup in Hume Fogg. And I'm certain they'll make it past that round. They swept Hume Fogg in the regular season. But I don't know. It was a really tough game. It sounded like Head coach Bailey Folk really thought her team could compete against Creekwood as they had in the past, and that night was not it.
Buzzsaw indeed. Creekwood's having a great season. Now, a team that had some trouble with their championship matchup earlier this season, the Kenwood boys. They had lost their 2 previous games to Henry this season. Very close games, both at home and on the road. I wasn't able to get to either of those because, well, one was at Henry, one was at Kenwood during when Clarksville Academy was playing a postseason game. So I just had to make some priorities there. But they lost a really close game to Henry County. Chase Cronin called it a heartbreaker. Calling it a heartbreaker was an understatement for Kenwood. But they finally got their revenge on Henry County, beating them last night to win that district in Chase Cronin's first year. I know they are just absolutely thrilled about that. Kenwood having a really good season. They've faced a lot of ups and downs, but they're going to be a really dangerous team in the postseason, and they're going to have to face Northeast in the first round. And obviously Northeast is a team with a lot of postseason experience, especially Sam Young, their head coach, won their last 4 district tournaments. But they're the number 4 seed this year. They're a much younger team, and Kenwood is they're going to be they're going to be a tough out. They can score a lot, and I know they're really looking at their defense as well lately. So, just huge congrats to Kenwood for getting that district championship over in District 14.
Yeah, we talked about the region matchup a little bit, and you were at Springfield Northeast consolation game last night.
Mm-hmm.
And from this game, Henry County will now face Springfield in the first round of the region. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I was talking to Micah Rochester after the game, after that Springfield got their big win. They were actually getting ready to head out to Kenwood so they could watch that Kenwood-Henry County game because they didn't really know much about either of those teams. I asked him how he felt about being the 3 seed instead of the 4, and he said, "Ask me tomorrow because then I'll know whether we have to go to Paris or not." And, well, unfortunately, they got to make that trip out there to Henry County, so they're probably not too thrilled about that. They might rather be the 4 seed in that case, which is weird to say, but the trip to Kenwood is a lot easier than to Henry County from Springfield.
It definitely is. But, Rochester's team, and this is kind of a half thing for a second, Rochester's team won 2 of 3 out of that district tournament and,
right.
Played Clarksville really close in the first half, right?
That's right. They did.
Well, they'll have an interesting matchup, and I think Springfield girls will play Henry County in the first round too. So that's a double header for the first round of the region.
Right.
Next one thing I've got Joe Burns girls, as I've previously mentioned, winning the District 8-1A championship, and they do it without their motor. As I mentioned, Grayson Bryan on February 12th, maybe February 11th, tore her ACL and meniscus in a first quarter drive against Greenbrier. Really just a horrible way to go out for your senior season. I believe she was less than 20 points away from 1,000.
Man.
What was really interesting was that she tried to play on Saturday in the district championship. She had this huge brace on her leg with a torn ACL and meniscus. I have no clue how Joe Burns allowed her to play, but she did see time on the court. And, as I mentioned, Julia Arms stepped up big. Brooke Dallin had a great game, as she always does. And Joe Burns, we'll see how far they go in the region, but it's going to be really important that some players continue to step up throughout this region tournament because they're without one of their top offensive players and arguably their very best defensive player.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Trying to play on a torn ACL, that's something the greatest athletes in the world can't even do. So
she's probably 5'1", 5'2". Yes. I have no clue. I saw it and I thought, is that Grayson? I saw the photo from our photographer, Ken Herndon, and I thought, is that Grayson Bryant on the court?
Gosh, that's something. But that shows a lot of toughness. And, I mean, a team that's been showing toughness lately is the Rossview boys, man. They started this season on kind of a rough note. They lost 8 of their best players from last year, including Ronald Jessamy, who's playing at some big-time programs lately. He's going to be a guy who probably plays D1. They lost a ton of seniors, so they had kind of a slower start to this year. They had a lot of guys who were either not getting minutes at all in varsity last year or playing JV. So But they were in the district championship last night against Clarksville. It was their second game against Clarksville that was decided by 2 points. So, I mean, just the fight that they've shown is just absolutely incredible. Johnny Jackson has done an incredible job coaching that team this year. Even though Clarksville has beaten them 3 times, I still have to kind of weigh the options of Coach of the Year once postseason awards come around, because, I mean, Johnny Jackson has just done that good of a job coaching this team. But I talked about Kenwood being a tough out. Rossview, I mean, I can almost see Clarksville and Rossview playing again for the region championship, because they've beaten Kenwood twice, Rossview has, and Henry County, a good team, but having to come all the way here for region games once we get into that semifinal round, that's going to give the Clarksville teams a leg up. And I mean, Rossview, just the way they've gotten this far this year is it's extremely impressive.
Well, you look at your District 13 4A, and you see another coach. You kind of see the work that Johnny Jackson has done this year with another coach that has lost a ton of talent in Sam Young in Northeast. I mean,
yeah.
Very similarly, if you lose that many players, you're not expected to be that good the next year. You're not expected to not only reach the district championship, but play in overtime to a team that's lost twice all year.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And we go from that to a team, and I know I sound like a broken record here, but East Robertson, back on top after a 22 year last year, maybe 4-18. It was a tough year, and obviously that was without Taylor Groves, but it's not just Taylor on this team. Elijah Groves has stepped up. Sean Groves, like I mentioned, is back now. I believe Jordan Barnard was named to the all-district team this year. They have a really solid team, and of course, I've said it on this show before, they have a tough region ahead of them with Clay County and Pickett County, but they've got a lot of pieces right now. I think they're building a lot of confidence, and it's hard to dispute against anyone that hasn't lost in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a heck of a winning streak. That's actually good. I didn't even mean to do that. Good transition to my next team. The Rossview girls had a huge winning streak going into the district championship against the Clarksville girls. And Clarksville beat them. I mean, that was their third matchup this season. Rossview had won the past 2, one by a lot, one by a little. And Amari Berry's 27 points, just that really vaulted them over the top. But I also want to give huge props to Milan Smith. She's a freshman, and she had 17 points in that game. Obviously, as good as Amari Berry is, she can't beat teams as good as Rossview by herself. And Milan Smith, 17 points in that game. She's been an interesting player this year. They lost, I think, 4 seniors from last year's team, 4 starters who were seniors, with Amari Berry, of course, being the one starter they returned. And players like Milan Smith have had to step up, and she's been a huge emergence for them. She doesn't look like a basketball player. She's a freshman, so she's not very tall. She's maybe 5'3" has kind of a baby face, but I actually tweeted this during the game. She has a killer floater. I mean, she kept getting into the lane, and I mean, from all around too. From any angle, she would just put that floater up, and it seemed automatic. It was pretty incredible. So scoring 17 points against a team as good as Rossview, she's the 3rd leading scorer in that game behind Mari Berry and Sydney DeRoche. So it was an impressive performance, and if she's able to keep doing things like that, Clarksville is going to be even more dangerous than they would have been. So props to Clarksville and Amari Berry and Milan Smith. Of course, Angel Martin had a good game too. They could be really coming together at this point.
Well, I gave you a couple of transitions easily, so I think you're going to give me one here. It's tough to beat a team 3 times is the moral of the story. Obviously, Clarksville beats Rossview after Rossview sweeps the regular season series. Very similarly, Greenbrier boys 24-3 entering the district championship against Portland. Had swept Portland in the regular season just by 8 points, but those games were all because Greenbrier pulled away late. You have a similar situation in this one. Greenbrier's down as many as 10, works its way back, and takes a lead with 20 seconds left, all for Portland to just grab a missed shot and a putback. Duncan Smallwood, gets the district MVP, and Chase Runyon gets 10 behind him, all because it's tough to beat a team 3 times. They're going to throw different things at you, and I know they're out of our coverage area, but Portland's been such an interesting story this year, losing former Springfield head coach Gerald Travis 3 weeks ago. And with an interim coach and the number 3 seed in the tournament, it really defied all odds there. And kind of they beat Creekwood in double overtime and then handed Greenbrier just its 4th loss of the year. So both of those games, Ben Wallace kind of mentions upsets and things like that at the beginning of the show. It's tough to beat a team 3 times, and anything can happen at this point of the season.
Yeah, and then my last team that I'm going to talk about is the one that's going to be going up against Ben Wallace this week. Is the Northeast girls. They've got a really good core of seniors. Ben mentioned Sierra Bowser, who has been just a great player for Northeast for the past several years. Chrisani Mitchell is a great post player for them. Adriana Smith has been having a really good season for them. My big question is, can these girls go out strong? Are they going to go out? It's going to be tough to beat Northwest, obviously, but can they go out and give Northwest a really good fight? Can they go out, on a game that they're proud to have played and, not go out there and, lay a dud or anything? You want to see them go out and just play a really, really good basketball game. And with some of the talent they have, I know they're very shorthanded this year. I think they have 7-8 players max on the roster. So wow. It's that's a short bench that they got this year. But, those are some really good players that they have, and I'm looking forward to hoping to see them, finish the season with a bang or keep their season going.
So, Brady, you mentioned that you'll be at Clarksville Academy this upcoming week for the the state tournament at this point. Clarksville Academy looking to get to the next round. Where else are you going to be?
So, on Friday, I think I might go to that Northwest and Northeast girls game. I haven't seen Northwest in a little bit, and I think that'll probably be the best game out of those that'll be in the city, because I don't see some of the other games going as possibly close as this one will. As far as the boys, it's going to really depend on how the timing works out for that. Clarksville Academy game. If they play an earlier afternoon game, then I should be able to get to 2 games, in which case I'd probably go see Kenwood in Northeast, which should be a really good game. But otherwise it'll just be that Clarksville Academy game if that's also a night game, because you got to prioritize those state games. But hopefully I can get to all of those games. If not, I'll at least be at 2. How about you? What are you looking at?
Friday we've got Joe Burns in Gordonsville. Very important for getting to the region, of course, or getting to where the host sites are in the region, I should say. Joe Burns, as I've mentioned, while they are the 1 seed, they've obviously lost a key cog to their team. So it's all going to matter. I think every game is going to be a challenge, regardless of how good the other team or how not so good the other team's played this year. I think it still is going to be a challenge for Joe Burns to win some games, to get far in the region, or get as far as they have been getting, to the sectional round and the region championship before that. Friday, as I've mentioned, Saturday, I should say, I'll be at East Robertson to watch East Robertson and Red Boiling Springs boys.
Should be a great weekend of basketball. And that's going to wrap us up for the Msp North podcast today. This is kind of a longer episode, as we had plenty to talk about. We had some great interviews. Definitely, I think definitely one of our better episodes yet. There's a lot of great content this time around, as usual. But this time, when you get to this point of the season, it just feels different,
Yeah, I think Ben Wallace and Luke Brown kind of carried the load for us today. So shouts to them.
They did a great job. But thank you guys, as always, for listening. Thanks for sticking with us for all 50-plus minutes this week. And we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
This has been the Msp North Podcast with your hosts, Brady McAtemney and Blaine Keller. Follow the show online at mainstreetpreps.com. Follow Brady on Twitter at Brady_MSP and Blaine at sports_BK. The Msp North Podcast is a Main Street Media production.